In this episode of Sunset Vibe Chefs Fruit of the Spirit podcast, Marina Nev and I discuss healing from within, autoimmune disease, gut health, and the mind body connection. We also share our personal journeys and how functional wellness helped us find hope and healing. Well, good morning. I'm Chef
Hello.
Monica with Sunset Vibe Chefs, and I'm here with my friend Marina Nev, who is a health and wellness coach and soon to be a functional medicine practitioner. Hi,
Yep, that's
Marina.
right.
How are
Hi,
you?
Monica. I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you, and I'm glad that we finally got to this point where we can have a conversation about, how what drove us to, go the route we are on right now, and as far as, health and wellness in general, because this seems to be an, a topic for conversation for many these days with the food supply and just in general people how people are feeling these days.
Yes, unfortunately, anywhere I go, I hear the same things. So many people are struggling with health issues.
Yeah, so why don't you give everyone an overview of, your background, where you come from and what are you doing these days?
Sure. So I am a mom of two teenagers and currently living in Florida. Originally from Ukraine, lived in New York, New Jersey, used to be a public accountant. So the fact that I am doing what I do now is a result of my own huge health crisis and transformation, and that turned into something much bigger. And so I am a health coach, also certified gluten-free practitioner, and I am finishing up my functional medicine program as well. And my passion is to help other people take charge of their health and feel better as a result so they can live lives that are thriving, not just surviving.
I like that, thriving, not just surviving. Just like I mentioned recently, how I make food for people to live for, not die for, you
Yes.
know. That's great. And so let's give people a background on your journey as far as, being confronted with the health issues you had in the past and how you're managing these days and how that was a driving force for you to enter into this field.
Yeah, so I used to live in New Jersey and work in the city, as we called it, in Manhattan as a busy public accountant. And I was juggling my job, I was and the family, and a 2 hour commute each way. And let's just say my own needs back then were not on my list at all. Like they were not on it, not even on the bottom. And when my baby got sick, diagnosed with severe food allergies, that added, to the overall stress. And I ended up being sick as a result because I didn't take care of myself at all. Not only that, but I didn't even um, appreciate the fact that I needed to take care of myself just to be there for my family. So as a result, I got very, very sick, and I developed Crohn's disease, which is an inflammation based disease of the GI system. And I had to go on medications that suppress the immune system. And unfortunately, I developed a severe reaction as a result and almost died from an infection. Had to have an emergency surgery, IV antibiotics for 6 weeks, very long recovery. And this was, when my kids were little. My son was still a baby. He was 2 years old, and basically he had his severe issues to deal with. So I literally had to crawl my way out, and survive and rebuild my health, both for his sake, for my family's sake, for my own sake. And unfortunately, I couldn't find answers in the mainstream medicine because they basically just told me, it doesn't matter what you eat, you just have to take your medications. And then I took the medication, and then this happened. And their answer was, well, you got to take the same medication again. And I couldn't accept that. And so I really started looking at the holistic ways of healing myself and my son at the same time as well. And little by little, I was able to test on myself, basically experiment and research. Back then, there wasn't as much information available as now. So um, I'm thankful that I was able to figure things out, and I am where I am now. But in the process is where I found out that I have a passion for helping other people, and people started turning to me for help and with questions, and especially moms of kids who had health issues, moms who were burnt out and chronically stressed and didn't know where to turn because doctors would tell them that, it's all in your head or it's all stress. Here's an antidepressant prescription, or you got to eat less and exercise more, you know,
I've
no
heard
real
that
answers.
before.
Oh,
Yeah.
all of us did. And so, because I was one of those moms and I, was learning a lot based on my own experience, my husband actually told me, listen, you see all these people asking you for help. Why don't you make this a career? And I'm like, yeah, I should. And so I became a health coach. And then I didn't feel like that was enough for me. I wanted really deeper knowledge. And so I got enrolled in the functional medicine program because I really wanted to understand the deeper root imbalances and causes of what we call, chronic diseases or diagnoses. They have underlying factors that need to be identified and addressed in order to heal. And that's my passion, basically, to understand and also to explain to other people so they can heal as well.
Yeah. I understand. My mom developed Crohn's disease in her mid 30s, and to this day, I mean, thank God it's in remission, but I've witnessed and been part of that, journey, and it was not pleasant. I mean, I saw
So,
my mom, it was like you don't know what to do. It's like we didn't know what to do back then, and we're talking about in the early 90s,
mm,
when she was diagnosed. So, I can sympathize for that. And I've mentioned some of my journey with autoimmune issues too, and I could definitely empathize with you on a level where I too once worked in the city in New York, that fast-paced, go, 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 young mom with two kids. And I used to commute from New Jersey as well. And it wasn't until I started working at my last, corporate job in New Jersey, that I was going to school at night for my master's, juggling full-time work, kids, everything working out like a beast. And I ended up in the hospital for a whole
wow.
week, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. My immune system shut down. And my doctor thought that my kidneys were failing me, and I developed edema, high blood pressure. I was
My
in my mid
goodness.
30s. Yeah,
Wow.
so that was a huge health scare. And it was like, I had a very stressful, fast-paced job, and the doctor was like, well, either you take blood pressure medicine or you find another job. And I'm like, that's easier said than done for him. He doesn't have a mortgage, two kids, single mom,
Right.
so it is rough out there. And I can definitely understand how, and I didn't know this back then, that your immune system and the trauma that's caused by all of that, right? It may not be emotional trauma. I mean, it could be a combination, but all those stressors have an effect on your immune system that will later manifest at some point.
Yes, yes, it does, unfortunately. And we have an epidemic now, especially women. Did you know that 80% of all autoimmune diseases are diagnosed in women? So you got to ask yourself why.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
That's another story and another show.
yeah.
But so let's move on. Like let's talk about for folks that don't know really Crohn's disease. You said it starts in the gut, right? Like
Yeah.
many autoimmune diseases as well start in your gut. We're hearing more about things like fatty liver. We're hearing about, people who have a leaky gut syndrome, right? What
Mhm.
is that? If you had to
Well,
define it.
leaky gut syndrome, I guess, more scientific name would be permeable gut lining or enhanced intestinal permeability. Basically, Our guts are porous. So we have a gut lining, which is one cell thick, and it's protected by a mucosal layer, and then bacteria, which hopefully most of it is the beneficial type of bacteria and organisms that we actually need a healthy gut flora. And that gut lining, the cells, they are permeable. So basically, what that means is there are tight junctions in between the cells that are kind of like pores, and they open up during the digestion process in order to pass nutrients through, which is what's supposed to happen. Unfortunately, when the gut microbiome is not healthy or well balanced, when your mucosal lining is compromised, when your gut is inflamed, that lining can become chronically open, you can say. So basically, the junctions are enlarged and the space is more porous, you can say. And so what happens is um, you can, so basically, the gut, to explain it in a different way, 70% of your immune system is in the gut. The gut is outside, inside, if you think about it, because it's inside your body, but things that are outside that, they go through your gut when you eat and drink. And what happens is the immune system in there is supposed to differentiate food, good. That passes through, no immune system response. And then you have, I don't know, pathogens or toxins and things that are identified as, not good. And then the immune system is supposed to do its job. Detoxification is supposed to do its job and filter the waste. When this process is disrupted, you can have food, like bigger pieces of food, so to say, peptides, chains of proteins, which pass through, and the body can misidentify them as invaders. Or you can have pathogens, microbes, toxins that pass through, and the body starts interpreting them as danger, and the immune system starts attacking itself. And so in Crohn's disease, the immune system starts attacking the gut lining, which is that inflammation, the autoimmune response. And it's often a combination of different factors. Yes, it's an imbalanced immune system where it's weakened on one hand and it's not able to fight with infections. And on the other, it's inflamed, meaning it is misfiring and attacking itself instead of fighting the infections. And then maybe also forming a response against foods or other things that it's not supposed to react to. And so the resulting inflammation is basically what's causing a more systemic reaction in the body, because Crohn's disease is more than just the gut. It can affect the entire body. And yes, autoimmune diseases in general start with gut imbalances.
Yeah.
So leaky gut, that is usually one of the biggest contributing factors. So healing your gut is instrumental, whatever autoimmune disease, or not just autoimmune disease, but many chronic illnesses that you're trying to heal from.
So do you think is a predecessor to, the Crohn's developing? Because what I noticed with my mom and went with her, she was constantly going to the bathroom, losing weight at a dramatic way. I mean, people thought like, oh my gosh, does she have some type of other disease? Started guessing because when you see somebody losing weight like that, you're thinking cancer, you're thinking
Yeah.
HIV, you're thinking all kinds of things, right? Because back then, those were the things that people were causing people to lose weight at such an accelerated rate. But besides that, what we noticed is that my mom's intestines, smaller and the larger intestines, were getting blocked, and as a result she had to have a few surgeries, which
Yeah.
was, on the more serious side of Crohn's disease, which ultimately, if not taken care of, you could ultimately end up with your colon being removed and, with a bag. So that's what you
Yes.
want to avoid, like getting to that point, colon cancer.
Right. Yeah. But yes, so it starts with softer signs, maybe indigestion, maybe, some constipation that's been lingering, maybe some IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which really doesn't mean a whole lot other than it's a description of symptoms. It doesn't identify what is going on. Chronic stress, which can promote a weakened immune system function and suppress digestion. So a lot of these things, they're brewing usually for a long time before it escalates to an autoimmune disease like Crohn's disease. So as I said, I ignored my own symptoms for a while and didn't really realize how serious things could have turned and did turn. So, but it takes a long time for this kind of diagnosis to develop.
Yeah. I mean, I would say with my mom, she was always juggling various jobs and had businesses. So,
Yeah.
she too had a lot on her shoulders. And, we kind of learned that. I mean, some people would say, like, oh, these are, genetic. I mean, we never heard of anything in our family with Crohn's disease. Similarly, with what I later got diagnosed with the Sjögren's. You know, I, Sjögren's, I thought it sounded like some form of martial arts, Sjögren's. I'm like, never heard of this. But so let me ask you, what were some of the biggest challenges that when you first received your diagnosis?
How to get myself better. The biggest challenge for me was how to figure out how I can actually heal. I could not find answers in mainstream medicine. I asked my doctor because in my mind, if my gut is inflamed, clearly something I'm eating can be a problem. And so I was looking for foods to eat, not to eat, and I was told you can eat anything as long as you take your medications, which did not make sense. And so I really tried to figure out my own way to find a diet that would work for me. And that was challenging because there are all kinds of diets and protocols. But the thing is, you are unique, I am unique. And so what works as a protocol for someone did not work for me. I had to figure out these things on my own and basically do eliminations and listen to my body and find things that worked. And at some point, I was so inflamed, I literally ate like very, very limited amount of food, like rotating them. And I was afraid to eat because I was in pain all the time. So that was challenging, how to find that information to heal. And that was one of the reasons I went back to school was because I actually want to understand what is going on and what to do about it.
Yeah, and as a mother, a wife, you want to be there for your family. You want to watch your children grow up and you want to be able to enjoy doing things with them. And when you have, a disease that could become so chronic, it definitely is a motivator. Now, the other thing is that you also have been a great advocate for your son, who unfortunately developed allergies at a very early age, and just the way your whole, your approach to your family changed when that happened.
Yes, he was diagnosed as an infant with multiple food allergies, and that basically was one of the reasons that I got sick from all the stress was because there was also lack of information, when it had to do with what do I feed him? Because basically all the foods that I fed my daughter, like the main food groups, he couldn't eat. He was deathly allergic. And so I had to figure out how to cook for a child, for a baby who had trouble growing, by the way. A balanced diet without milk, without eggs, without wheat, without tree nuts. And I had to literally learn how to cook from scratch, foods that he could not just eat safely, but also grow and thrive and be healthier. And that was very, very stressful. And not only that, but also I'm a big advocate for food allergies because there was a lot of misinformation as far as, the symptoms, the treatment that the EpiPen, I wasn't prescribed an EpiPen for him until he was a year and a half, which was ridiculous because he had his first anaphylactic reaction at 5.5 months old. So we literally went a year without an EpiPen because the doctors didn't think he needed one, which now I know differently. And EpiPens save lives. We had to use it, and I've seen it firsthand how it reverses an allergic reaction if you do it on time. And so I'm a big advocate for, being aware of the symptoms, taking your EpiPen. Like my son knows, I drill him every time. Did you take your EpiPen? Did you take your EpiPen? Because it's a matter of life and death. Well, especially when it comes to multiple food allergies and yeah, yeah, unfortunately, the statistics right now, allergies are growing. Food allergies are an ever-growing epidemic too, and so it's very important to raise awareness and make sure people appreciate and understand it's a life-threatening condition, and it's actually a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's what I'm trying to talk
Yeah,
about a
so
lot.
when you think about, like, we grew up with like the food pyramid, right? We know
Yeah.
today that that's not a one size fits all. And just in general, I was, propelled to doing so much research when I learned about Sjogren's. and how little doctors, especially, like rheumatologists, was that's what I was dealing with, know about nutrition, because they told me the same thing. And I went to see three different rheumatologists that, oh, you don't have to change your diet. Of course I do. Something is I'm eating is also is, one of the factors at least triggering,
Yeah.
these symptoms. And, when we grew up, we didn't have all these chemicals in our food. The environment, the air we breathe was so much different. So it is a lot of things. And when we look at the stress factors, right? Which, actually is just another, nail in, I'm not gonna say in the coffin, but just a nail there, where we really need to learn to take better care of ourselves.
Yes.
And as mothers, that's something, I was not really taught to do in general. It was like, you got to work hard, you got to take care of your children. I saw my grandmother being the matriarch, and like the rock everybody fell to, and she took on so much, ended up with diabetes and high blood pressure that killed her very early in life, unfortunately. But yeah, it's like I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting like, oh, this is genetic. There's something that you can do, and you need to be proactive. You need to be your own, you have to be the fighter for yourself, for your family, and constant, educating yourself is very key to healing, right? So there's the whole mind, body, soul connection, right?
Yes, absolutely
That's
agree with
another
you.
factor which you also help your clients with, because we have to change the way we think about
Oh
certain
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's actually, I'll say this, it's the most difficult thing to change, and it's probably the most profound when it comes to healing because I have done so much for my own healing, but nothing really worked until I recognized a simple fact. Living in chronic stress basically keeps your body all the time in a danger response. And so it will think it's not safe to heal. I need to be prepared for danger. I need to be prepared to protect myself. And so it will use those essential resources for that versus recovering and rebuilding and healing. And so, in order to start healing, you need to be, your body needs to feel safe. Your mind and body need to feel
Yeah.
safe to heal. And this is where we live in an environment where it promotes that, as you said, go, go, go
Fear.
lifestyle,
It
like
promotes
the
fear
fear,
too.
the
Yeah.
anxiety, the stress. It's like this badge of honor, how stressed you are, and all that. Well, yeah, no wonder we get so sick.
It's true. It's true. So, so when did you realize this was bigger than just your personal journey?
Um,
I think you just mentioned it because you mentioned
yeah.
how your husband said, Marina, this might be actually what you're called to do.
So I will say this, even before this whole thing, when I was working as a public accountant, I had a very acute feeling that I was not in my place. I just felt that I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had this drive to help people always. I just
Mhm.
didn't know what that meant. And it took my own personal healing crisis to understand where I'm meant to be. And so when basically when I realized that this is bigger than myself was during that journey when I started sharing my experience and my son's experience, and I was fighting tooth and nail for my own health and my son's health because also keep in mind that not only did he have severe food allergies, we were told that between his severe allergies, eczema, and asthma, that for us to get ready to live with that severity for the rest of his life because he'll never outgrow anything. And I
Mhm.
couldn't accept that. I could not accept it. And that was the basically the turning point for me, for him, as far as like looking holistically and looking at options outside the mainstream medicine. And so between his journey and my journey, we were both forced to look outside the Western medicine box. And when I started sharing that, I saw how many moms there were with sick kids, how many moms there were with health issues, how many people were looking for answers. And it resonated with me. And so when I started helping first like family members and friends, and and it kind of grew, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And I love it. Like I love doing what I do, and it's incredibly rewarding to be able to help others take charge of their health and see them feel better as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing as far as, working with clients who have special diets. And that's a challenge for me because I have to learn what are the things that they need to stay away from. For instance, if it's, keto diet, diabetic diet, renal diet, there could be all kinds of diets and things, protocols specifically centered around that person because there's no one size fits all.
Yeah,
Now,
that's right.
one of the things that you mentioned about, the struggles, right? I know some from my own experience that my struggle and my storm, right, actually was preparing me, right, and how I was responding to that, and I don't know, I just feel like God gave me the strategy to persevere because if I had listened, and I'm not saying that doctors are all wrong, you have to do what you feel is right for you in your body. But I wouldn't just take the first doctor's diagnosis, especially with what happened to me. So, um, I understand how personalized nutrition matters so much more now than I did before. Running around as a working parent, sometimes not even having time to feed myself right, but then coming home and making sure that my kids ate right. So I was neglecting myself in many ways, getting rest, proper rest, sleeping enough, which is still
Yeah,
something I'm working on. But those are all things that we need to take into account because your body needs sleep to repair. And if your body is in this constant fighting mode, right? Because when you have a autoimmune issue, your body is in that fighting mode all the time,
it is.
you
Yeah.
know. So with the Sjögren syndrome, like for instance, I was diagnosed with that in 2023, which kind of disrupted everything I was trying to start doing, building my brand as a personal chef. And I got so discouraged. It's like, no, this cannot be happening right now. And the rheumatologist that I saw, he had said something that was very discouraging. And I wouldn't, I don't know how some people can become doctors and say this to their patient that just consider like you're a grape that turns into a raisin. That's what Sjogren's can do. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because Sjogren's attacks the moisture in your body, right? It attracts your salivary glands. I was not even able to drink coffee. Now I'm drinking coffee, praise God, in moderation. But moisture, you don't even realize that if you don't have proper moisture in your mouth in general, I was hearing people losing their teeth and like all kinds of horror stories. And we know how important it is, your dental hygiene, right? And I've always been really good with my dental hygiene. But not only that, it was affecting my joints. I was having joint pain. I had severe brain fog. So how can I function? It was the unseen. People see you look good on the outside, to some extent, and they don't see what's happening inside, right?
Right.
They think that you're just crying wolf. It's like, no, all these all these different symptoms that can manifest from, Sjogren's syndrome. And Sjogren's, I'll just give an example of, the definition is this chronic disease, which now I'm seeing commercials being made about it because nobody knew about it. And it takes years to diagnose. Most people that have it have had it for years, at least 8 years, and have had to see numerous specialists before it even gets diagnosed. So it affects different parts of the body. So it's not just one. Some symptoms you can see and feel, while other disease activity may be harder to notice and can even cause organ damage.
Mm.
So if left untreated, it could get worse over time.
Right.
And my heart goes out to people with Sjogren's. And I actually, after seeing three rheumatologists who wanted to put me on medication, that would literally cause my immune system to weaken even further, that I wouldn't even be able to play with my grandchildren, right? Because I could be more susceptible to getting sick. um I didn't accept it, and I said there's got to be a better way. So I started looking the functional medicine route, and when I discovered how much functional medicine doctors cost here, I did pray about it, and I tell you, my prayer was answered because I found someone who knew more about Sjogren's than the doctors I was talking to. And he was a functional medicine nutritional specialist. And he
Mm.
helped me tremendously. And actually, he's not even in this country, he is in Liverpool. And I was seeing him for over 6 months on Zoom, and he educated me. He, ran tests, sent me to get lab work done that my own doctors didn't even request. We started that whole process of elimination of foods to see if I had any food sensitivities. And I did discover there were things that I was sensitive to, one of them being milk. I'm not allergic, but I'm sensitive. And little did I know, my mom had shared with me, as a baby, I could not drink regular formula.
Mm.
I wish she had told me that, because that would have actually shed some light on this. But yeah, there's just the things are there. It's just you have to put the pieces to the puzzle together. But I will say that even to this day, I'm still learning, and I have, come up with what works for me based on help with Jeremy, and also going to Abby's. I was seeing a functional medicine doctor there as well. So I am taking supplements that help me with the moisture. It is a full regimen. And it's not cheap, I'm gonna say that. But in the long run, when you're paying doctors and you're paying for this medicine that's not really, you know, it's not curing you, is masking the problems that will eventually get worse, the way I see it. And there is a way. There is a way. And I know the whole mind body connection, the nutrition is key, and also peace, right? We need peace. Because if you don't feel any peace in your body, you know, it's just gonna make matters worse.
Yeah,
So there
it's
there
true.
is there is hope, and there is healing. And I just want people to know that.
Same, that's my message too, because healing is always possible. And it's one of the biggest issues I had with Western medicine was the lack of hope and the powerlessness you feel as a result, because basically you're told what your diagnosis is, you're told what medication to take for the rest of your life, and you're told that this is what your life is going to look like, and
Yeah.
things will escalate. And I refuse to accept that, both for myself and my son. And I didn't believe that that was our life. And I can say that healing is possible, and everybody has the capacity to heal. It just some people more, some people less, but you always can do something to support your health and feeling better.
Mm-hmm. So as a word of wisdom based on your journey, and as far as emotional wellness and the autoimmune conditions, what would you say are some of the key things? Like I mentioned rest, right? Sometimes we have to set boundaries, and mindfulness and therapy and support systems. How do you incorporate that in a program you would develop for a client?
That's actually a very big part of my program, because in my personal experience working with many women, I find that is the most difficult area of or life where women struggle the most, because we are innately designed to give much of ourselves to everybody else, and we feel guilty for taking care of our own needs. And I mean, I cannot even tell you, like everywhere I go, I talk to women, it's the same exact story over and over and over again. Basically burn ourselves from both ends. And I gently teach and support other women to change that mindset, to understand that taking care of yourself, self-care is not selfish, it is essential because
Right.
there is a saying, oh gosh, oh, well, I don't remember it right now, but anyway, something about try to take care of yourself so that you can give others what's best of you and not what's left of you. And
Oh, I like that.
this is where, a lot of the times we miss the whole understanding of when you take care of yourself, you have a lot more to give to others. Because if you don't, you will burn out, either emotionally, a nervous breakdown, or you will have to find a way to cope, through self-medicating with food, alcohol, stimulants, medications, or you start developing serious health issues, which will escalate if you change nothing, basically. And so your body, it's very smart. And symptoms that you experience, they're not inconveniences. They're not signs that your body is broken. They're actually a sign that your body is doing its job and it's sending you those signs that things that are out of balance and that you need to change something to support yourself. So think of it as a check engine on your car. You don't unscrew the light bulb, right? Go away. I don't want to hear it. No, you go to the mechanic and you fix your engine. We don't treat our own bodies that way. And this is where the part of the mindset that you accept the fact that you do need to take care of yourself. You prioritize that. You don't feel guilt over it. And you actively work on finding ways to promote that peace, to promote that sense of well being and just healing environment,
Mhm.
healing mindset. This is key to overall healing.
And you start to experience joy, right? Because how can you
Yeah,
feel joyful if you don't have peace, if you don't start to feel better, if you don't have any hope, you know? And I think that is a great perspective. And I just recommend everyone who will be listening to this to consider if they are experiencing anything similar to this, to reach out to Marina, who is amazing and has so much knowledge and love to share because she really cares, and similarly, those who are working on the nutrition part and diets and don't have time to cook, but want to make sure they're eating clean and eating wholesome food, to look me up because
that's
that's my
right.
forte. So we definitely make a good team.
That's true.
So we're gonna wrap up now. Thank you so much, Marina. I think you gave us so many key takeaways and encouragement for the listeners, as far as how, you know, just to remind themselves that healing is a process and a journey, and not to be encouraged. It's not a one size fits all, but to
Yeah,
not be afraid, to be courageous, and to, find their people. Find your people who are going to be, even if it's that one person who's going to be your support system, you know,
that's right.
because
Yeah,
you need that. You can't do life alone, and you need your tribe.
that's
And
right.
you need to pick really carefully select those in your healthcare system, right? That could be your mental health, right? Because nowadays, so many people suffering from anxiety with what's going on around the world and with your health and just life in general.
Yeah, that's right.
So we encourage everybody, you can have a healthier lifestyle. It's just
Absolutely.
up to you. You have to make that decision.
That's true. And basically, healing is always one step away. You always have a choice to start feeling better.
Amen to that. Well, thank you, Marina. And who knows, we might have another discussion soon.
I am looking forward to it, and thank you for having me on.
Also, before we go, let everyone know how to find you on
Oh,
social
you can,
media.
sure, yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Wellness Coach Marina. On Facebook, I also have my page, Wellness Coach Marina, but I'm more active on Marina Nev. But once again, Instagram probably is the easiest way. Wellness Coach Marina, one word. I'm there. I post regularly, so you can
And
reach
even
out to me
on
that way.
TikTok, right? Because TikTok is also popular for
Yes,
women.
I just started my TikTok page. It's not as, it's more general because I'm still growing, but yes, I'm also Wellness Coach Marina there.
Great. And I would encourage everybody, Marina has been giving free webinars. When she posts, you should definitely join in.
That's right. They're very informative. I do a whole slideshow, and I love to educate people. And I'm actually in the process of planning live events locally too.
Nice. Well, that's great. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Everyone have a great day, and we hope that you benefited from this conversation.
That's right. Then have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.